right. Happy Saturday, everybody. This is Natalie Nidham, and I'm here with Jean-Francois Tremblay, the owner of CanLab. I am a holistic nutritionist, an epigenetic coach, and a health coach in general. And I'm here digging into my passion for peptides with Jean-Francois, who kindly agreed to come in and keep up on our myth busting and clearing the road, clearing the, what are we clearing? Clearing the fog on what the difference is between TB5 and Thymosin Beta 4. So these are two different peptides that are related. TB500 is actually a fraction of the Thymosin Beta 4. They tend to be used interchangeably by many practitioners and even many educators in the industry. And so today we're going to explain exactly what the difference is between the two, why you might use one over the other, and sometimes when you might use both together. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Jean-Francois. Why don't we start with Thymosin Beta 4? So these are both obviously thymus peptides, right? So they're part of the whole family.
Well, yeah, it's a chain, so to say. It started with a big protein that is produced by the thymus, and they extracted many fractions, as we said before. One of them is thymosin alpha 1, the other one is thymosin beta 4. So that's the first step. And then, and that's a big trend now in peptides, and I see it in research. It's starting to pop out. Pharmaceutical companies are pushing that too, because they cannot put patent on, but the fraction they're making their way into that. So, but it's useful, and at the same time, it's a way for them to patent it. So they're looking at fraction of things. Like example, we talked about that a bit before. The melanotan has a very strong anti-inflammatory effect. Mm-hmm. But for you to get that strong effect, you would end up being, if you're white, you would end up being black within a month. So right. It's not practical, but they know which fraction is anti-inflammatory. Right. So now it's 3 peptides. So they isolated it, and now you can use only that for that anti-inflammatory.
Right, and it's like PT141 is a fragment of melanotan.
Not so much a fragment as a variant. They modified it, maybe switch a couple of amino acids, because it's still a pretty long peptide. But so that's what we have. So the first step is thymosin beta 4. Yeah. Then breaking it down by fraction, they found out that it's like growth hormone and frag. They found that the last amino acids are the ones that work only on the fat cells, to promote fat mobilization. And so without any of the other growth hormone effects. So, to fraction, it's not new. Now they're looking deeper into it, which is good. Yeah. So one of those fractions, and I'm going to share a screen right now. That's not from me, actually. That's from Ben Greenfield. He found it for me, so that's good. I have to research. So one of those fractions of thymosin beta 4 is the amino acid 17 to 23.
What's this here? This 17 to 23 refers to amino acids within.
Exactly, the number 17 to 23.
Okay.
And that is the TB500. So that has angiogenesis. Here it says dermal wound healing, but it's pretty much, musculoskeletal system, bones, and all that. So basically, that's the fraction of thymosin beta 4 that is specifically responsible for healing of those tissues.
So can you explain something to me? Induces mast cell exocytosis. What does that mean?
I don't know. People will have to go on Google. And
I'm going to look that up.
I don't know everything. Okay. Yeah, give me 2 weeks.
I'm going to look into it. And
But basically, and I'll send you those. Those are screenshots I took from in one of the groups. Actually, somebody posted them, so I just took screenshots and I say, cool, it's done already. But you can see actually that.
I'm going to put my glasses on here because this is too small for me to read.
This one. Here, do you see you have fraction 1 to 4 that has more anti-inflammatory, antifibrotic, which is good too in healing. 1 to 15, anti-apoptotic, protect from cytotoxicity. So you go on. So each fraction is more specific to a certain activity. Right. Now, why for so long, people would use terms like TB500 and Thymosin Beta 4 interchanging all the time? Most people know the difference. It's more practical. Now people are getting more educated, so they know.
You can turn off your screen share now if we're done with
it. Yeah. How do I do that though?
Just go down to share and stop share.
Yeah, but
at the top maybe.
Oh, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you do.
I do.
Go to the top of your screen. There you go.
Okay, screen. Okay. It's more because in the general public for many years, people had no clue about that difference. So for me to say TB500, like for a long time on my web store, I would put TB500 because for a while I put Thymosin Beta 4 and I would get a bunch of email. Oh, you don't sell TB500. I say, yeah, this is it. You know, that's the big one. And then, so now I put TB500 into parentheses, Thymosin Beta 4. Now I started last week to relabel. Now I don't put TB500, I put Thymosin Beta 4 slowly so people catch up. And for another reason, in the short time, we will sell the actual TB500. So there are going to be two different products. I know a lot of people, you know, that are not in the groups that I'm going to get a bunch of emails again, but I'll have to explain and I'll just make a copy and paste.
But it'll be like the perfect stocking stuffer will be your little vial of TB500.
But the thing is, now coming to their use, it all depends. As I said, for melanotan 2, it's good if you want the tan and the anti-inflammatory, you take the melanotan 2. Yeah. But if you want only the specific anti-inflammatory effect, then you take the fraction. Yeah. So if somebody, it's a bit like that. Me, I would always use the Thymosin Beta 4. Yeah. And you could do like a 50-50 mix. And if there is something in all those fractions, all those effects that you want more, then you add TB500. Or even probably will make the other fractions too, so they're good. Because the whole Thymosin Beta 4 is good for about anything. You know, somehow it's funny. BPC 157 and Thymosin Beta 4, they're almost moron-proof, meaning that moron-proof, meaning that, listen, if somebody has something and you're not sure what could work, just give them those two and chances are it's going to work. Like I had a teacher when I did my master in physiology. He was a specialist in the liver. And one day he told us, he says, listen, when you have exams and they ask where this enzyme or something is produced and you're not sure, just write liver. Because it's about 90%, or, you know, so you're not sure, liver. You have more chances to be right than anywhere else. So, you know, I'm not saying that people should become clinicians and, you know, open their office and, you know, give that to everybody. But many times, if you're not sure, you can start with those two. Say, okay, bang. Because you saw, if you break the thymosin beta 4 in fraction, it covers a lot of things.
Right.
So if you isolate what you're aiming at,
yeah,
then I would go for a 50-50 ratio of what you want.
You're really stacking the fragment onto the total peptide. So it's almost like, you know, in what I do, if we give someone a multivitamin, which we don't often do, but let's say we do, and we want, you know, we know they're deficient in B12, we know they've got a problem with,
then you add those
then I
to
add a B6, B9, B12 on top of the multi just to give emphasis where you need it. And this is the strategy you're talking
and
about.
always keeping in mind, and me, I try to tell people always, that's what research, that's what we know from research right now, but doesn't mean we know everything.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe it's a very strong muscle healing, for example, and this is the fraction that actually binds on the receptors to do that. But nobody looked into it, maybe not, but hey, who knows? Maybe the other fraction have a secondary effect, so I wouldn't discard them. That's why I would go for a 50-50.
And for the thymosin beta 4, I've read also that there's neuro benefits. Like
oh yeah, big time.
So to only use the TB500 is almost cutting yourself off from that full body.
Other benefits, because if you have, let's say, a ligament tendon injury, chances are you will have a bit at least of neural damages around it.
Yeah.
So, you know, you fix that. So you don't take chances, so to say. And you get the best of both worlds when you take both. So again, that's why if you want to pinpoint one of those activities in the group, don't discard thymosin beta 4.
Yeah.
Take thymosin beta 4 and add the other fraction.
As they become available.
Yeah, they should soon, because once we solve the problem of, and that's imminent, of putting in vial, then we'll have more time to do synthesis, and I want to come up with all those little things that could help people.
Well, and I think to your point, there's
the only thing is, I don't know I'm gonna call them, because TB500 has a name, but like the first fraction, the 1 to 4, it has no name. So I'll write frag 1, 4.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll be the first to name it.
Name them. I think that what was I just going to say? So the TB500 really focuses, and so this is just again to clarify.
Yeah, and that's why if you look at studies, research, you go on PubMed and do TB500, you have a few articles that actually show that the short fraction was used, but then you look at the study, it was all with horses. So decades ago, it was used with race horses.
Yeah.
And you know, they didn't care about the health of the liver or any other. No, the horse has broken something. Let's fix it. We want him to race on Sunday. You know.
Yeah.
But then the bigger fraction became mainstream. But the TB500 name, because there was one company, it's TB500.com.
Yeah.
That came up first with that product, and you know, I think that's with them that the confusion we have today started, or that put TB500 mainstream when actually it was thymosin beta 4. So basically those are the differences.
That's it. So it's pretty simple, right? But
once you break it down like that, it's nothing esoteric. It's
so just how many peptides in the thymosin beta 4 peptide chain?
43.
Okay. And then TB500 is 9, right?
Yeah, it's 17 to 23, so or 7. Yeah, it's an odd number. But
so that's another thing that when people are reading, if you're coming across research usually they will always talk about the length of the amino acid chain. So that's one way to double check. And even if they're messing up the names or using the names,
Exactly.
it's a really good way to check what it is you're actually reading about, because they will always talk about the 43 amino acid chain or the 7 amino
Exactly.
acid chain. So that basically gives you the opportunity for yourself to
Yeah, and just I mentioned it before, but when you read an article, you know, the abstract, even in science, because I don't know if you know, let's say you are researchers, you get a ranking.
Yeah.
How many publication you publish, in which journal,
Yeah.
and how many time it was read.
Yeah.
And that gives a ranking, and that correlates with their salary at the universities. Of course, a higher ranked researcher will get a better salary because he attracts more attention to that research center or university.
Yeah.
So there is some marketing done, and that's why today we didn't see that 30 years ago. You know, you would go at the times where it was a long process, pull the thing, do photocopies, but usually you would have 1, 2, maximum 3 authors to a research. Now you have like 10, 12.
Yeah.
So because they started that a few years ago, they help each other.
Sure. Yeah.
In the same university, they say, okay, I'm doing this research. They have to have a small part, but if they review one paragraph of the whole study,
they get their name on.
Legally, it's enough to have their name. So they say, okay, I'll put your name in my studies and you put mine in yours. So that, but that's too big. Now it's meaningless because everybody's doing it. So it became meaningless. But for a few years, the first who started that, they had their ranking go all the way up, of course. So that's why today you see like a dozen of people, and it's not like those 12 people were in the same lab work. No, come on. There was probably 2, maybe 3. And now they put the name of the undergraduate students in there, you know, the master guy. Listen, I published myself, but I'm in the middle, and I did participate, but no, not to the extent as the actual researcher. You know, I saw what happened and everything, but the actual paper that was published, I didn't do much. So you see that, but basically coming to what the abstract is, the sales pitch of the article. Yeah. So they put, new peptide that heals this.
It's the marketing.
Bang, it attracts attention. Yeah. It makes people normally go read it, and bang, you know, ranking goes up.
Okay.
But that's a sales pitch. It doesn't say that it was done on rats that were predisposed to that disease, and you know, all the details that, okay, I should have read that before. You know, if you start, so when you read an article, you really need to go in the article to see those details, because, and so many times people, they stop, oh yeah, no, look, it does this. I say, well, yeah, okay, let's look at the article in which setting it does this. Yeah, you know, it may be very so specific. It may be a first study to what they call a proof of concept.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is something that, okay, we'll do more research and go broader. But the first one was the proof of concept that yes, it works there. So it makes us think that, okay, we'll do more research to see if it works there and works there. So it's not always like the definitive answer. And in both ways, sometimes it's going to say, no, we didn't get any results. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means it doesn't work with that little thing they looked at. And again, that's why I say clinicians are always ahead of the curve. You know, if somebody has been using a product for 10 years, systematically see results, it's not because there is no research done on the product that it's not working. If the guy has to wait for research to back him up, then how many patients he helped, he wouldn't have helped if he had waited for. So, you know, you have to try to keep a balance.
Yeah, no,
For many years, it was too clinical. Now it's too research based. Eventually, it will come to a nice middle. Hopefully, usually that's what it does. Because before it was too clinical. That's why now we're at the other end. You know, you go see a physician, and you know, physicians, when you go see a physician, what's the first thing he does? First thing, think he asks questions. What are your symptoms?
Yeah.
If it's good, then at that point he pretty much knows what you have because that's what they're trained for. Looks like this.
Right.
30 years ago, he would act on that. Now it's the other way. He won't act. He won't do most of the time, unless it's a cold. But he's gonna go for blood tests, for scans, for this and that. Now he has to prove that his intuition is right.
Right.
And then the course of action will be taken. We're at the other end. It's safe, yeah, because you know you read in the newspaper like misdiagnosis and all that. But even that, it's minimal. Most of the time, a good doctor, just by listening to you, to your symptoms, he will know what you have. That's what they actually study when they, yeah, there are some blood marker too, if there is different possibilities. But no, it's too much, you know, and that's why healthcare is so expensive. In the US, well, from people's pocket, here, it's, you know, it's free for us. Well, it's not free. We pay it with our taxes, but anyway. But that's normal in the history of things, you know, the things adjust up and down eventually. So basically that's it about that. So Thymosin Beta 4, the good thing though, and that's a good thing, if it's a really, I mentioned that, I wrote it, I think, is that since it's a much smaller peptide, you get that many more molecules per milligram. So let's say you would have needed a total of, I don't know, 100 milligrams of Thymosin Beta 4 to fully heal. Since that's a 7 amino acid instead of 43, I'll go rough there. I won't go the actual weight, but that's about 6 times more molecule of TB500 per gram.
Yeah.
So that means you're taking 100 milligrams of TB500 would be roughly like taking 600 milligrams of Thymosin Beta 4.
Yeah.
So it would make it cost effective. Again, I wouldn't go to the other end of using only TB500, but you even would bring down the cost of the therapy significantly by using those fraction mixed with it. And you could play, again, I said 50-50. If somebody, it's clearly a broken bone, then you could go 75 TB500 and 25% Thymosin Beta 4, because at that point, you know, you're really, if it's more like muscle ligaments and you suspect some nerve damages and all that, then you know you change the ratio again. That's in a clinical setting, you know, you play with that.
Well, my guess is that's going to become part of the art and science of using these peptides in collaboration, is people learning how to toggle different amounts of which one based on different conditions that are presenting.
Yeah.
So, and that'll evolve over time as clinically people more and more start to use these things. And as you keep saying, you know, everybody's still learning in this world right now.
Of course.
There's a lot to, and we know that every one of these peptides is pleiotropic, like it acts on all different points in the system. And as much as is known, I think there's still a lot that people are learning about. And
oh boy, it's new to everybody.
Yeah.
I've been in that field for many years now, and boy, am I learning still as of today. It's ridiculous. Like, it's like, oh, this, oh, that, whoa. It doesn't stop. It's amazing. It's huge. Just a little parenthesis, because we talked a bit about it before, that new TB4 product, pills.
The TB4 frag, the oral.
Yeah,
That's spray and
I cannot emit an opinion on the actual product because one, on their webpage they don't this um,
no
tell you what's in it exactly. So the claim is as if it was Thymosin Beta 4, but I don't know what's in there. They talk about a fraction of the protein. The thing is, you know, when you ingest a protein or a fraction of it, and we digest it.
Yeah.
We have enzymes and, you know, the acid of the stomach.
Yeah.
Like meat, you know, it's not meant to be absorbed. It's supposed to be broken down to the amino acids and then the amino acids. Actually, that's why we have so many problems with leaky gut. It's because some fractions are absorbed and they're not supposed to be, and you get all those autoimmune system because those proteins are, at that point, many times it's a fragment, even a peptide, are not supposed to be in the blood. And that's why I suspect to the BPC oral, it works better with some people than other. And I suspect, you know, studies will have to be done, but that it works better with people who have leaky gut.
It makes it through less digestible.
Yeah, it leaks through, but at the same time, it fixes it. So eventually it works, but with time it works less. Or they try it again, and I've read that, oh, it doesn't work like the first time. Yeah, of course, because the first time you fix the problem that in that case helped it to go through. And now it's not going through anymore because the problem is fixed, and it's not working so well. So the TB4, that product may work actually if you have leaky gut. Which is not a good thing. You know, it's a funny thing happening here. But unless they found a way to make peptide orally available, and I don't think so, because they would be billionaires if they find that, literally. Like that. They patent it, sell the patent, they would be fucking rich. They would, excuse the expression. But and it's not like people, labs for years, they have tried to, you know, to make peptides orally available. Insulin, for example, you know, it would be much easier for diabetics. Nobody came up with a way. So I doubt that whichever little lab is doing it found a way. That would be like, I don't know. So, you know, I'm very skeptic about that. You know, again, I don't want to talk against it because I don't know what's in it, and you know, they don't give any information. You only see the bottle, nothing else. I don't know, but it's like I don't see, because if it's this talk about the protein, where the Thymosin Beta 4 comes from, it's an even bigger protein, which is susceptible to digestion, and more being bigger, the body recognizes it as a protein and will break it down and digest it. I don't know.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what comes back. It's brand new. It just hit the market, so hopefully.
Yeah, and I know in the group some people will try it, so it'd be nice, you know, to get feedbacks and see happening on one side. On the other side, it'd be nice to see what eventually they post somewhere what's or people buying the product. It should be, because they only show probably on the back.
Yeah, that's
by law they have to list what are the actual ingredients and see what's.
So eventually it'll come out, and I also think somebody at some point is going to open up a capsule, dump the contents, and look at what's inside there. You know, like somebody with the equipment, like even maybe someone like you.
Yeah, we may order one. Yeah, well, yeah, sure, that'd be fun. But again, for because there was a product we tested like that, but we are in that funny position where we're able to do it, but ethically, because we have a company of peptides, you know, I don't want to do that and say,
Yeah.
no, that product is not good, because people wouldn't know. Well, no. Like, is he saying that because he wants to sell his products or to put that other company down? And I'm not playing like that, you know. If they have a good product, then yeah, it's a good product. So, you know, I'm a bit reticent to do that.
Yeah. I think that, you know, like I mean, the one product I know you're thinking of, we're not going to name by name. I mean, look, there are people out there that are reporting benefit from it.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, it's doing something for some people. We know that the BPC 157 is an orally bioavailable peptide.
Yeah.
So it's great that it's available in capsules for people who, for whatever reason, are
Exactly.
the Thymosin Beta 4, whatever fragment it is right now, I mean, from what we know, it doesn't seem entirely, certainly within the context of what we know, it doesn't seem intuitively that it would be bioavailable orally. But as you say, who knows what's been done and what's being tested. So it'll be interesting to get more information on the product, get feedback from people using it, and then we'll see. And then the rest will unfold as it should. So, but anyway, so thank you so much, Jean-Francois. I think we've covered, we're going to keep this one short. We've committed to each other to do shorter, more frequent, more targeted interviews. So this was today really about Thymosin Beta 4 and TB500, finally really just clarifying for people what the two entities are, what they do. Thymosin Beta 4 is kind of like your multi-thymus peptide.
43 amino acids.
Right? And then your TB500 really hones in on the musculoskeletal effects of the Thymosin Beta 4, so they can be used together or apart. But to your point, the Thymosin Beta 4, it's always nice to have some of it in there because it has so many different effects for the body.
Yeah, and nobody is functioning 100%. So, you know,
I'll use a little Thymosin Beta.
Like many times I've used TB4, Thymosin Beta 4, and BPC, and, you know, for one condition. And people, they say, oh, by the way, I had that too, and it's fixed, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a nice side effect.
Side benefits you didn't even expect.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jean-Francois. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you want to find Jean-Francois Tremblay, you can find him at CanLab.net. That's where, that's his website. You also have a CanLab Facebook page that people can join and follow about new developments. I have a Facebook page on Facebook as well called Biohacking Superhuman Performance, Peptides, Genetics, and Nutrition. I co-admin that with Jeff Robinson. And we talk about all kinds of peptides and epigenetic stuff and nutrition, really just about full body optimization. So thanks so much for watching, and have a great rest of the weekend, Monsieur Tremblay.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. The record.